Hi, and welcome back to Abilene People, the podcast here on BigCountryHomepage.com and the KTAB Plus app on your streaming TV, where we talk to Abilene's most interesting people. And I am sure that if you own a bookstore in downtown Abilene, and you are originally from South Africa, and you are married to another South African who was your high school sweetheart, and now you live in Texas, in Abilene, that makes you one of our most interesting Abilenians. And I think that's the case with Arlene Kasselman. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not sure I can live up to that intro.
Well, okay. Thank you for being with us today. Our guest has been Arlene Kasselman. Hey, so you own 7-in-1 Books in downtown Abilene.
I do.
What's 7-in-1 Books? What's the title? What's the name? Where did that come from?
It came from the Enneagram, and I'm not sure if your listeners are familiar with the Enneagram, but it's a core motivation assessment that you can take. Not quite a personality test, but in that battery.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a strengths finder or a skill or gift analysis
Definitely
combined
adjacent
with
to those things.
Yeah.
And on those types, I'm a 7, and my son, who opened the store with me, is a 1.
7-in-1.
7-in-1. And it just seemed quirky and cute at the time. He has since moved to Austin, and I have threatened to rebrand everything and just scratch out the 1.
No, don't. It's so interesting. I love it.
kidding.
Yeah. Don't. Oh, don't. Okay, you are married to your high school sweetheart, David Kasselman,
yes.
who is one of the owners of Grain Theory.
He is.
You live here in Abilene, so you have 2 adult children,
Yes.
and you are originally from South Africa.
All of that is
How
true.
did you get to the United States and to Abilene, Texas?
It's a long story, but David and I had a whole life in South Africa. We'd been married 5 years. I was a travel agent. He was a financial planner, and he decided he wanted a change of career. We applied to a lot of schools in America. We knew ACU because of a church background connection, and they offered us great money at the time to come.
There you go.
And we sold up our house and our belongings and packed 4 suitcases and moved across the world.
And you didn't have kids at the time.
Oh, no.
And oh no.
Oh, no.
Probably wouldn't have done it if you had kids at the time. And you've been here ever since, right?
Yes.
But you did think about going back to South Africa, but you ended up staying here, and here you are.
Yes.
And you've done different things, and I want to real quickly before we get to those things and then get to the bookstore, because that does fascinate me. You have 2 adult children, and they live in Austin.
Right.
Now, are they a part of the Keep Austin Weird fandom and culture, or were they a part of the Keep Abilene? I shouldn't even say this, but Abilene's not boring. But I did love those T-shirts.
Yeah, Abilene is not boring.
And the Convention is Visitors Bureau friends will hate that I said that because Abilene's not boring.
It's not.
But your 2 adult children, I think they're both married, maybe.
Yes.
But they live in Austin.
They do.
Okay.
They are amazing humans. My daughter and her son-in-law live in Leander, and she works at UT, so she commutes every day. Her husband is a work remote guy for Function Health, so he's been into startups and tech. My son is a working actor. He lives in Pflugerville, and his wife is a speech pathologist. So they are both in kind of the higher education tech world, and then acting and medicine.
And he acts on stage
Yes.
or on film in front of a camera?
On stage.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So how do you do that in Pflugerville? Is there a theater, or is it a robust hill country theaters that he's a part of?
Primarily the Austin area. So he has done stuff with Dr. Mister Productions that are Austin proper. He did a long-term contract at Georgetown Theater. He is now doing Austin Shakespeare.
By the way,
he's got a few other things lined up.
I happened to recently see a YouTube that was the 10 most exploding cities in Texas,
Okay.
population-wise, and Georgetown was one.
Oh.
It's just gone crazy down there.
This square is beautiful. Like
Yeah.
it's so great.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And Abilene's grown a lot. And you're in the middle of that
Mm-hmm.
downtown culture because 7-in-1 Books is on, wait now, don't get me lying, North 2nd.
Correct.
Between Cypress and Cedar.
Excellent. Yes.
Right down from the Leaf,
Mm-hmm.
which is another one of our favorite establishments in town.
Right.
So I want to talk a little bit about the bookstore,
Mm-hmm.
but I keep saying this. want to talk about a couple of things first.
Okay.
Your bio says, let me give a quote. I'm passionate about relationships and connection and all the layers that make up being present with people. Unpack that for us, especially the present with people part.
Yes. A very good friend of mine has a saying that I have adopted for myself, that although I'm somewhat extroverted and fun-loving and kind of love people, I don't do well with small talk in big rooms. I do better with big talk in small rooms.
I like that. That's
I loved it
similar
too.
to how I feel.
It really helped me identify and kind of quantify because I'm a terrible mingler. If I go to any of the big Abilene events, I'm that person who just kind of shrinks into the background. I don't know how to mingle, because what I really want to say is, tell me your deepest fear. Like, let's connect.
Okay.
And
now it's so fascinating because I've always thought of that as, okay, people think I'm an extrovert, but I'm really not.
Right.
I'm really an introvert.
Right.
Because what you just described, if my wife were sitting here, she would jump over the table high-fiving you, saying you just. So that's you're teaching me something.
I think I'm a relational introvert.
Interesting.
And I think we have mistyped and said introverts are not relational, which is so not true. It's just how they, refresh themselves.
But I would never have guessed.
Yeah.
Not that I know you well, but I've
Yes.
seen you over the years a few times, talked with you a few times. I would have never guessed that you were an introvert. You hide it well. That's a terrible way to say it. What I'm saying is you come across very, how can I say it? Not extroverted necessarily, but very pleasant, very easy and accessible.
And I can talk to anybody.
But you're really having to work at that probably.
I don't know if I have to work at it. I really do. I love people. I love conversations with people. I'm just better at one-on-one.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
And I've recently discovered I'm less of a joiner than people would imagine.
What do you mean by that?
I've worked with an organization that has held retreats around the world. I traveled internationally with them twice a year for probably 14 years. I can host your retreat. I can speak at it. I can write the curriculum that's going to be taught at it. I would never attend a retreat.
Interesting.
I can lead and teach at one. I would never be the person signing up to attend one. I can lead book clubs all day. I would never join one.
Interesting.
I'm not a joiner like that. And I think that's a part of my introversion. But one-on-one and talking with people, I love that. Love, love, love.
Well, I kept thinking, okay, she's teaching me so much about myself sitting here having this conversation, but I don't, this sounds like a punchline and it really isn't. Maybe I'm just old, and I do love people, but I don't really like to hang out with people that
I think
horrible.
I think COVID changed something in most of us.
You are exactly right.
Yep.
100% on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the being present with people, for me, looks like if I could make a living by having coffee or tea with a friend and talking, that's like my best skill. I don't have a lot of marketable skills on a resume, but I can hang out with coffee and conversation all day.
So that's the lead thing on your resume now. I'm a great hanger-outer with coffee and tea.
Yeah. Could somebody pay me to do
Now,
this?
South Africans, more coffee or more tea culturally?
Sort of depends. When we were growing up, 100% more tea. I think as the world has shrunk, there's a lot more craft coffee and small batch coffee and coffee shops that have opened. South Africans used to be notorious for instant coffee in their homes. And so that was never great. But now I think it's changed.
I don't know if it's true in South Africa, but I've traveled to parts of the world. I used to be in international humanitarian aid and traveled all over the place. And in Asia, I would find these instant coffees that were just fabulous.
They are definitely better.
They are so good. And I discovered that one reason is because one dose has 1,000 calories. There's a lot of sugar in that stuff. Yeah. Okay. So that does make sense. I like that explanation. And you obviously are someone who has invested in people because you and David, for a period in your life, were in Christian ministry.
Yes.
And how many years was that?
Full-time paid 16.
Okay. Was that in Amarillo, Texas? Do I remember that right?
Yeah, in Coppell, in the Dallas area, and in Amarillo.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious, and we'll finally get to the bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious. What's the state of evangelical Christianity in the United States in your mind? And maybe to get there, I'll give you some handles to hold on to. Okay, hot, fantastic, great, kind of lukewarm, or cold as ice.
I so badly want to give like a categoric statement for all of evangelical Christianity in America.
Oh well, I paint with a big brush all the time.
But I think it is sad and troubling. I think that's where I would land. I know for me, this feels trendy and feels disingenuous at this point because everybody and their dog has deconstructed, and that word is layered and is triggering for a lot of people. And let me say, too, my church experiences have actually been overwhelmingly positive. We were in amazing places with incredible ministry teams and great leadership. So I don't come to this conversation with a whole bunch of church trauma. But once COVID hit and we were not going to church, I realized that in 1 year, this house of cards fell for me when it was something at that point I had been doing for 54 years of my life. All of a sudden, 2020 rolls around, and I'm like, I don't miss this. I don't need it. And then when it started to go back, I would be sitting in church, and this wasn't a church's issue or a speaker's, whatever. I was like, I can't sing another worship song. I can't sing another worship song. I've sung them all. I can't hear anybody else preach at me. I've heard all the words that anyone could ever say, and I've preached some of those words. Like, I'm done. I just can't do this. So I thought, okay, this is maybe me going through a me thing. So we just backed off. And then have had some really helpful things since 2020. Started going to Heavenly Rest for a little while, which was completely out of my previous experience. And that was very good for me because I couldn't anticipate anything. I couldn't predict anything. It was all new. I was learning. I could just sit and be. So that was really good for me for a while. But I am, most days, I'm good with God. Most days. I am not good with the church right now. And I kind of feel like a rebellious teenager saying that. I don't mean it that way. I've just got some lines in the sand that I can't go back on anymore.
So I'm sorry to be scribbling a note.
No,
I
you're
want to make
fine.
sure. I want to make sure to remember something you said. Now, okay. Do you tie the churches at large, particularly the evangelical church at large, its fascination, interest, and acquiescence to political power to a lot of what you're thinking and feeling? Or is that kind of, are they conjoined twins, but you haven't really addressed that? Or is it just something, because I get tired of, to be transparent, I do get tired of talking about it, but I'm always talking about it. So it's not like I won't talk about it. People probably get tired of me talking about it. That's where I'm just so tired and sick and tired of the churches bending around backwards 6 times for political power. And it just, what has brought us to this place, kind of perpetual questions for me. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I think it's, at this point, it becomes very difficult to extract one from the other because politics has invaded so much of evangelical systems. I personally have not attended a church that has been very
Or hyper political.
hyper political, or even supportive of some of the nonsense we're seeing. I haven't personally had that experience, but I'm watching it across the nation and in other places and here, but I've never been a part of those things. And it is very hard. There was one point, I think in 2016, where it was the first time I thought to myself, I'm sitting on a pew with somebody who, thanks to social media, one of the downsides, I now know what you believe about everything. 20 years ago, I would never have known your thoughts about this, but now I know because you're so overt. And although I believe that being around people that are different to yourself is really good for you, we don't exist in an echo chamber. The first time I thought to myself, no, I don't want to be shaped by that. Yes, it's good for us to not live in an echo chamber and to be exposed to all kinds of people and thinking, but I had to finally say, I don't want to be exposed to that because that is being represented in Washington and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, and again, so much of what you're saying resonates with me personally, and I don't know. I would assume many people watching or listening to the podcast shared experiences of what social media has done.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like putting a little bit of your drinking water under a microscope, and you
Mm-hmm.
realize, oh my God, there's so much bad organism in that water.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd have never known.
Yeah.
That's why I got out of the Facebook world totally. I just totally got out.
And it doesn't allow nuance or the
Oh, no,
ability to hold critical thinking.
no.
You have to align, and the alignment becomes a binary. And then all of a sudden, everybody is kind of sitting at an extreme, and there's no civil discourse
Yeah.
between.
Well said.
So,
Well said. Okay, we really are going to get to the bookstore.
Okay.
We really, really are going to get to the bookstore. Just one quick thing, and it can be a quick hit, and we can move on. But as a legal
mhm.
immigrant,
Thank you.
have you ever thought what you would do if some masked federal agents showed up at your store, demanded to see papers, which I doubt you carry on you? Maybe you do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've traveled all over the world, and other than having my passport, I never had
Right.
proof of anything.
Right.
And there were probably times I didn't have my passport on me. But have you thought through that, what you would do, or is that a present thought for a legal immigrant in today's America?
I do not carry any additional documentation with me. I am legal. We stayed on green cards for a very long time and became citizens in like 2011 or 12 because we had kids about to go to college. And I didn't know what our status would do for them getting their own federal aid. So we did the citizenship route out of that concern.
And did you do what I would call the long
Yes.
path citizenship
So
route?
a lot of people like to say, oh, you did it the right way, And I tend to go back to people when I can on that and say, I also had the privilege to do that. I'm English speaking, white skinned, have all the benefits that come with that. Going through the immigration system is hard. There's not a human to talk to. You send documents in and out through attorneys. There's messages on portals. It's hard. And we had the language and the privilege to equip us to do this the right way. Plus, I wasn't fleeing as a refugee from somewhere. I had all the benefits.
You were not in a position where claiming asylum was
Right.
even a thought.
And I had the funds to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't trying to protect my child from being hacked to death. So I had the privilege to do it the right way, the long way. It was still hard. And it was kind of funny not really funny. It was amusing. In the bookstore about a year and a half ago, where some of the first ICE raids started taking place before this last big group, I went through with my booksellers like a little statement that we were told to print out and just have that would, give your rights, what you had to say or what you didn't have to say. And we're in a staff meeting, and I'm going through and I'm prepping them and I'm telling them where this card is. And one of the girls looked at me and said, well, actually, Arlene, you're probably the only problematic one in the place. You're the only one that needs this. I was like, yeah, you're right. And I'm not walking around in fear that I'm going to get snatched off the street. Don't mishear me. But it is the first time as an immigrant that I have thought to myself, other people have had their papers in order, and that's still not been enough. Being a naturalized citizen is not always enough. So I'll just let that be.
We finally are going to get to the bookstore.
Okay.
Appreciate all of your transparent insights so far. So you could have built a business on anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why books and why a bookstore?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess there's a way you could be involved in literature and books without having a bookstore, physical bookstore. But, you know, a few years ago, we all thought bookstores were dying.
Mm-hmm.
But here you are.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to pry into your business side of it. It's not that I don't care. I do care. I want you to succeed. But that's really not the point of the question. The point of the question is, you guys look like you're thriving. Are you doing okay? And how did it come to this place? That's interesting to me.
So I think I had said multiple times over a long period of time, kind of in a romantic way, oh, I'd love to have a cafe and a bookstore. I think many people have said that over their lifetime. Oh, one day I'd love to have a cafe. I'd love to have a bookstore. And in 2020,
yeah, but we don't really mean it.
I didn't mean it either. I just would say it. And in 2021, my son was living in New York for the summer. He'd done an internship, and he was living in Queens and working in some very hard boroughs with refugee families. And about twice a week, he would go to Manhattan to a bookstore at Seaport called McNally Jackson. And he would go to their cafe and write and blog and just kind of do all the processing from this internship. And I went to see him one weekend, and we're sitting in that cafe, and I did the thing where I said, oh my gosh, one day I'd love to have a bookstore. And he looked at me across the table and he said, you've said this my whole life. Why don't you do it? And I said, because I don't know how, and I don't have any money. And he said, go and learn and talk to the bank. And it was this simple exchange. And then our weekend continued. And I got back from that trip and I said to David, I'm going to open a bookstore. And he was like, okay, where's this coming from? And I kind of told him. And he immediately helped me draw up a business plan. I went to the small business org and went and talked to the bank. I also was starting to do research and realized once 2020 had hit, indie bookstores started growing across the nation at 35%.
They did.
And
which shocked a lot of us.
I know. People started reading again because they were bored at home. And while people are seeing like their friend's Greek restaurant downtown have to close because they can't stay open during COVID, Bezos is posting that he's going to space. And I think something happened in the collective consciousness of people that went, my friends aren't able to sustain a business during this terrible time. And you're talking about space travel. Like, read the room. And I think that plus the interest in reading, and about the same time, TikTok was taking off like crazy and people were making videos because they were home. And there's a part of TikTok dedicated to books called Book Talk, and reading was becoming popular and influencers are talking about it and book influencers are talking about it. So indie bookstores start growing. And I think what happened is you used to have the big, Walden Books, all of those, I forget some of their
Barnes and
names.
Noble.
All of those big stores. And then they put the small stores out. And then Amazon came along and really impeded on the Barnes and Nobles. And they shut down a lot of stores for a while. And some of those big box stores shut down and Walden Books closed and all the bookstores that used to be in the mall. And then small bookstores started opening. And I think people started finding new life in the small town bookstore, in the third space. I can go hang out here. It became a thing. When people traveled, they looked for coffee shops and bookstores. And so it became like a tourist destination. So all of that is happening while I'm having my big dream that I'm going to open this bookstore. And I just decided, with the support of David, who had literally just got Green Theory going, I think I can do this. And Abilene is on the cusp downtown of somebody opening a bookstore. That's how I felt in my gut. Because most downtowns that are trying revitalization and have a main street now have a bookstore. And I thought, someone's going to open one, and I want it to be me. I want to be the first one. Bearing in mind, Texas Star, my catty corner neighbors, who are great business neighbors for us.
And unfortunately, they're shuttering.
Selling. I know. I hope someone great buys them, because we love that store. I knew they specialized in Abilene and Texas lit, because they have that whole book section. And I thought, that's perfect, because then I don't have to make that my specialty. I can do all the other genres. So it seemed like a great sort of synergy. And I went to talk to the bank that was solving the one question. And I found a bookstore that was my sort of inspiration store. It was in Edmond, Oklahoma. And they have since changed hands. But everything about that store, the vibe, the style, and everything was what I wanted. And they just let me come and shadow and learn from them.
Well, that seems to be the vibe of bookstores that are the small independents, that there's a community of shared experience and shared knowledge. So what's the one thing that surprised you the most about running a bookstore?
This feels naive to even admit on this end of it, but I had no idea that I was going to need to be in the event business, because we do events all the time. It's the next fun thing to get people in the store. And so
Give us an example.
Saturday we did Winnie the Pooh Day. I know a new Winnie the Pooh book came out last Tuesday.
And the calf.
Yes, and so we paired up with all of them, and so there was Winnie the Pooh Day. Most Saturdays we have a pop-up in store. A small artisan maker will come and sell their stuff. The end of the month we have Indie Bookstore Day, huge day for us. We have art workshops. We have guest speakers. We had a death cafe a couple of weeks ago, which was amazing. We have author signings. It's just event after event after event.
And you love that part of it.
I do, and it also stresses me.
Yeah.
So I think those two things go hand in hand.
It takes us back to our earlier conversation in a way, you know, that you're kind of forced into some of the stuff that you're not so comfortable.
Yeah.
That's not, top shelf stuff, but nevertheless. Well, look, I've been in your store. It's incredibly well stocked, and there's coffee and tea, right?
Well, right now we just are back to tea. We did have Dunn's coffee cart that would pop up in the store Fridays and Saturdays. Their coffee cart broke, and so they are on hold right now while they figure out what's next for them. But we always have complimentary hot tea.
There we go.
And I'll make it, because I can make a good cup of tea.
Hey, again, you're South African, okay? So here we go. Okay. Quick hits, all right? Okay. Fiction or nonfiction?
Previous to opening the store, nonfiction. Since opening the store, forced myself to be in fiction.
Well, okay. All right. That could be another conversation. I'm fascinated, but I want to keep going. That's interesting, okay? A book that changed you.
The Power of Moments by Dan and Chip Heath. It's a business book. It's going to sound bizarre, but it has profoundly changed me.
All right. One book everyone should read.
This question is so hard for me.
Let's do it this way.
Okay.
I'm going to give you my personal answer.
Okay.
And you tell me, nah. Okay?
Okay.
You ready? Of Mice and Men, John Steinbeck.
Nah.
Okay. Love it. Love it. Now, if we were on Facebook or social media, I would say something really horrible about you.
Yeah, we could argue.
You're terrible. That's terrible.
Yeah,
you don't know what. You don't know nothing. Yeah. Why don't you try reading it? Obviously you haven't read it. I had a guy tell me recently that I didn't obviously respond, but he said, it's obvious to me you've never read the Bible. Okay. We'll let that go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
If only you knew.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny.
So what's one book everybody should read?
Okay.
Because clearly you're wrong.
The reason this question is hard for me is because I'm not sure that there is a book. I think people need to find the book that is that tells a story to them in a way that either convicts them in some way or shapes them in some way, and that needs to be the book they read. Because we find a lot with classics. People have got an opinion. Oh, you have to have read this. Well, no, that may bore you to tears.
Right. Yeah.
So in my world, in my context, I want to say everybody needs to have read a Henry Nouwen book. But that's great if you come at a worldview from my worldview. But if you don't, I don't want to force you to read a Henry Nouwen book. And so I think I'm not trying to wiggle out of the question. I think each person gets to figure it out themselves.
I like that. Sometime, not now, not on the podcast. I've got to tell you, maybe we'll. So Uday, maybe we just keep it running after, and we do this as an extra bonus. This little story I'm about to prelude. I'll tell you my meeting Abraham Malherbe.
Oh yeah.
Who was personally one of his dearest friends was Nouwen. And I'll tell you that story. Okay. So I don't see that as a cop out. I see that as a pretty informed answer. I like it. It's almost like where you are emotionally and psychologically when you read a book. That determines so much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's sad to me that you're wrong about Of Mice and Men. Okay. You prefer a quiet bookstore or a lively bookstore?
I prefer both. And
no, you can't prefer both.
I can. Give me a minute. I like the idea of, we've got Book Sanctuary in our title. And sanctuary makes one think of a quiet, reflective space, which I believe our space is. But once those little kids get in the bookstore and they run to their back corner and they're excited about books and they're talking about books and they're pulling things off the shelf and it's a little chaotic back there, my heart leaps. Because I'm like, yes, they need to be so comfortable in a bookstore that they know they get to do that thing.
And, and interesting, isn't it, that for them, that is the very definition of sanctuary.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we have a couple tables in the back room, and there are students gathered around that, and they're working, and they're talking to each other. Or I've got a couple families that'll come and have a cup of tea and just sit there and chat. I mean, it's not like an EDM party. We're not in Vegas loud, but it's also not, hush, we're in the bookstore, we can't talk.
Yeah.
I like the idea of sanctuary combined with a place that people feel comfortable hanging out.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. And real quick, if somebody wants to get away from the .com industry of book buying,
yes,
they can go to your store and either find or order pretty much any book, correct?
Yes. So we do special orders every day. And there's two other avenues. Bookshop.org is an organization that exists. We have a page on their website. It's massive. And you can order any book through them to be shipped anywhere in the country. You just choose us as your bookstore, and we get passive income from that.
It's and that's bookshop.org.
That's like an answer to an Amazon marketplace for books. But we can order directly from the store, and we do every day. And then for audio, you can go to libro.fm instead of Audible and not support Amazon, but support indie bookstores. And we get residuals from that. So,
oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. That I did not know.
Yes.
Okay. So if 7-in-1 Books can leave a lasting impact on Abilene, what would you want that impact to be?
The 4 design icons that I chose for the store when I was doing all of my branding was a book, a chair, a candle, and a cup with a tea bag. And those 4 things to me represent comfort, cozy, inclusion. And when I started the store, I said verbally, I wanted anybody in Abilene to be able to walk into that store and see either an author name or a cover that looked like them. I want a black child of 10 to be able to come in and see a chapter book series with a black kid as the hero. I want an Indian toddler to be able to pick up a board book about Ramadan. I want anybody in the queer community to know I don't just have like a sectioned off little book section of books in hiding, but that they can come and get a queer author's book off the shelf. I think representation matters so much, and I want 701 to be a place where everybody feels like they have a space, they're safe, and they're accepted.
Arlene, I asked this question of a lot of guests as we conclude, but I don't think I've anticipated the answer. And no, that's poorly said. I don't think I've looked forward to the answer with any guest like I look forward to the answer from you. What would you like to see in Abilene in 10 years?
Obviously, a thriving downtown.
With a really big 7-1 bookstore.
I'm happy to have the bookstore the size it is. I feel like it's when I can no longer be one-on-one with customers, we're too big. But I think a thriving downtown, because that impacts the community tremendously. I think a place where visitors want to come and hang out. A place where our local residents can afford to live. And one of my other sort of big wishes is we have a lot of people doing a lot of good things in Abilene, a lot of nonprofits and a lot of organic grassroots orgs and people that are doing great things. And I have a deep desire for so much more communication and collaboration, and for no one to have to reinvent the wheel, and for there to be synergy in all of those works.
Arlene Kasselman, thanks for coming into the podcast.
Thank you.
What a pleasure. What a fun thing. And I think everyone in Abilene needs to go to 7-1 Books downtown. She agrees. North 2nd between Cypress and Cedar. And you will see exactly what she's talking about. And that's a really powerful image. A book, a chair, a candle, and a teacup with a tea bag. That's pretty powerful. So I'm your host, Danny Sims. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Abilene People. I'm going to give a shout out to our producer, Uday Singh, who does a great job punching the buttons and making sure that everything's taken care of. And we will be back yet again with another guest, one of the most Abilene's interesting. I don't know that we can top from South Africa, grain theory, bookstore. I don't know, but we'll try. We'll try. As you know, we will have somebody in that chair, very interesting, at our next podcast. Again, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. Thanks.